Up here to the front, we've got a demo going on right up here with Mr. John McCarthy. It's a newer dummy out here. It looks like it's the Rope Smart dummy, and this thing is very interesting. And John, what are we going to talk about here? Just kind of the functions of this and that kind of deal?
We're going to go through where the whole design basically was birthed and why it is and looks and how it operates. There's a lot that goes to it, really. There was a lot of thought and a lot of science put into it. So we're going to break that down, and then we're going to invite a few people up to rope it and go from there.
Good deal. Is it okay if they have questions, just raise their hand
Absolutely.
and ask you and that kind of deal? Guys, this is a relaxed deal, so if you have a question about the roping dummy here, just raise your hand. And John, I'll turn it over to you, buddy.
Fantastic.
And, we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll tell you, looks like my truckload of hog dogs back home. All right, one of the first things I want to talk about, and just like yesterday, I'm sure about halfway through somebody else is going to walk up and want to know the same thing, but the biggest curiosity factor I think that everybody always notices is this. It's a little different. We don't have too many cattle running around with the stick out their back, and so they always want to know what the pole's for. So I'm going to kind of start with that, and then we'll work into the other areas of the dummy. We wanted a dummy that was not just something to exercise on. And I mean, we can take any dummy if you've got a perfect loop, a really, really good loop, and you're going to rope it, and you're going to rope it well. The problem with it was, for me, is that I didn't have that perfect loop. I was always struggling to find the perfect loop. I might rope my dummy 100 times perfectly and then go out and be 60 to 70% on my live cattle. And I'm like, well, why is this not transitioning from groundwork to horseback? And so I wanted to design a dummy that was functional on the ground, made me rope more like if I was horseback. And so the pole, after studying tons and tons and tons of footage of the greatest ropers and looking for the common denominators that they all possessed. I mean, they might teach different things, have different styles, so to speak, and verbally relate the same thing differently to people. But the bottom line is when you watch them rope and you watch certain functions they do, they're the same common denominator. So the reason the pole is here, it's got about 3 or 4 of them, but the main one is when you look at head loops and you look at misses in the team roping world, the number one miss I'd probably have to say when we ask people, it is a wave off. And unfortunately for all the dummies and everything out there, you can rope with the loop that has a very, very small plane. You can rope it with anything that comes in like this. If it's big enough to basically get across the set of horns like this, you can catch a set of horns. Okay, the deal is when a loop comes across like this and gets its twist, it hits over here on the rib cage or the shoulder. And when that opens up from hitting there, that's hence you pull your slack, and that's what causes the rope to wave off. You can also get wave offs from having too much rope out there, but that is the main cause of a wave off, is the plane the way it delivers is kind of wiped on. And so there's a lot of ropers that have roped 10, 15, 20 years, and their whole life they've rode up nice and high, and they've just come across, and they slide it on like that, and they try to get it up there tight. Problem is a lot of those are going to pop right back off. So if you're effective and you catch 7 or 8 or sometimes 10 out of 10, whatever it is, you might get by with that. But the second you go and you wave that off for the short go check, it gets to be pretty frustrating. So this pole, being in here in the height that it is, it's pretty evident that that loop's not going to work on there. And so when I'm trying to change that, I throw that same loop. Okay, it's not going to rope the pole. It's just going to go around the front of the stick. And so it's going to make me learn to carry my loop and deliver it at the right plane. Now, if you watch, like we're going to get some great slow-mo footage this week of the best ropers. And when you watch that loop go on, it comes down with some drop, and it's always wide, wide open. And the good loops, we're going to see that steer's head right in the middle of the loop. Okay? So my aiming circle, basically, breaking this down, I've got a whole lot more chance of catching with this versus this. Okay? It's also going to psychologically make me pack my rope a little bit higher. The second thing that it's designed to do is to stop a loop where you deliver early from working. And a lot of people drop the rope early, and the rope then barely slides across this left horn, tips off the horn, and then comes around and they have a catch. Or they will turn around and wave that loop off as well. And when you drop your rope early and you're coming down from the wrong plane, this loop, as it dives down, comes down like this and is going to go underneath, and that's where we get our split horns from, which is probably the second biggest miss in team rope as far as heading goes, and it's back off. And so again, those loops won't work with this pole in. Now, it is a little bit of a challenge sometimes for somebody who has been roping that wiped on loop for a long time, but the bottom line is it doesn't take, most of them doesn't take them more than 15, 20 minutes to get their hand turned over and start carrying that loop just a little bit longer before they release it. So the other loop that it prevents from happening is when a guy wants to push his rope. The guy's going really, really fast, he's going like this, and then he jams it. Again, that loop's not going to work. And if I'm roping any of the dummy and I'm just jamming it on there and it's working, I think I've got something. And that's not going to work on live cattle. Definitely not a high percentage of the time. So that's the function of the height of the post. The positioning of it, twofold. One, we wanted something that was a good reference for when you're on the ground and you're practicing. Most people, when we rope the dummy, they just walk up, they pack their rope, and they're going to walk forward and back, and they're just going to rope their dummy. And they're going to keep their arm right down here and just come around and rope the dummy. And they're just going to keep roping and keep roping. And everything's going to seem great, it's going to work great. The deal is, when I'm riding here narrow, and I'm practicing that, what I call racetrack oval kind of swing, I get in here and I do this on horseback, even though I've roped it, and it's tight, okay? And I'm sitting here like this. Now when I go to turn this steer, he's going to wash out, going to hang, and then he's going to drag behind me. I don't think dragging a steer is handling a steer. To me, a steer's got to be on the end of a rope to handle it. And the analogy that I like to use to describe that, and anybody here who's got kids or grandkids or a kid yourself that likes to be on a swing, when we go to swing a kid on a swing, we don't walk up, set the kid on there, push them off on their face. We don't do that. We walk up, we grab the swing the kid's sitting on, we bring it back, and we just let go. And when we let go like that, what's the kid do? It swings. It's weight, height, release, it's going to centrifugal force, he's going to swing. So when we rope a steer, we want to also position our horse and our delivery everything from that same position if we want that steer to handle well. Okay, and so we line this post up here, so when you're standing out here to the left and you line it up with the base of that right horn, it's going to put you out here at that 45. So when you're on the ground, instead of trying to find that mystery place, you can look at it and you can line yourself up. Now you're at that 45. Okay, and to demonstrate this on the handle, I need somebody to help me real quick, just to hold the rope. Not going to embarrass you, not going to do anything like that. Just need you to hold the rope. Can I get a volunteer real quick? Come on up. So the first thing I want you to do is just stand right here narrow, and just want you to come here and hold that rope. Okay? And just hold it tight. Don't let it slide. So I rope from here. Steer's moving forward. He's going to crumble and wash out, and the head horse is going to have to turn and drag the steer off. Okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and place you over here at the 45. Let's line it up at the base of that right horn. Okay, right in line with that post now. So when I rope a steer from there, and I dally and just sit down and start riding my horse and just check my horse a little bit, wow. Takes over. It's just science, okay? So people who have been in their comfort zone, roping high, roping narrow, they're going to move over here and they're going to have to build their loop a little bit differently as well. So this dummy is not going to just help change one thing. It's going to bring a whole dynamic change from rope build up to position, also to the correct loop, okay? Thank you very much. So that's the reason we have the post in there. And the last, I guess one last reason is where it's placed back. When a guy's roping, we don't want the Hondu to, now this is to be controversial, yes I know, I'm going to say this, we don't want the Hondu to hit them in the back of the head. We don't want to rope at the back of our loop. This is not where we want to catch a steer. We want to catch a steer in the center of our loop. And when it comes around and it curls, the Hondu actually is over here, and when we suck it down, then it's going to place itself at the base of the left horn. Okay, so with this pole being back here, it makes you rope at the center of your loop more. You can't rope it way up here like that. It'll go around the front of the head. And if you throw it with just the tip, it is not going to go on. So that's the last reason we have that pole in there. Before I go on to the head or anything else, any questions on the pole? Okay. On the head, I wanted something that was more than just a free throw shot. And all the heads that are out there primarily, they're kind of high, they're kind of elevated, the back slope up, whatever it is. So when you're roping them, you can actually slide a rope up the back and catch the horns. And with this here, we've got it out flat with the shoulder, got a dip here. So when I step back here a couple coils, and I'm looking at the base of that horn, it's a small sight window. It's gonna make me get my arm up and reach down and get a full delivery and get dropped to my loop. When we watch these guys rope here at the NFR, again, watch these slow-mos. That rope comes from so far up here and it has so much drop to it. And you have to have drop to your loop if you're ever gonna reach. Just think of the simple angles. If I'm roping flat right here and I take that way back here, pretty soon I'm hitting the steer and there's no way I'm gonna catch him. It's gonna hit the steer in the middle of the back and it won't work. So the head is positioned out and flat for that reason. Now on the post, we wanted something that was adjustable so we could also practice real life situations, not just a free throw shot. So I've got a steer that's dipping his head. I've got to get my tip down. I've got to have the same plane of the swing of my loop as the horns are tipped. I still need to carry it past the center of the head or I'm sure enough going to split these horns and wave it right back off. Same thing when a steer's coming to us or a heeler rolls it to us. Up like this, how many times do we see a loop do the 360 around the world here? This is typically what we see when somebody's got a head that's tipped to them. Heeler's maybe over hazer, he's pushing him, and they just throw that good flat loop, and around the world it goes and off the top of his horn. Never gets around the base of the left horn. So that's what we have that on there for. So you can put wherever you want on there, tighten it up, and practice your different shots. Now making a dummy that to me was universal was really, really important. I wanted something that was multidiscipline. I used to pack around all these different dummies, all these different contraptions, so I could practice when I went from heading to heeling, or if you're roping calves or whatever it was. So we also designed what we called our runner calf head. And the reason we call it the runner, hence it's got its head down just like a runner would. When calves run, they don't typically stick their head up high for us and have plastic ears on them where we top knot them and rope them. So with this calf head on here, and you guys that got kids that break away or gals that break away, when they go to rope this, if they throw that flat loop, it's going to hit right about here on the neck, and it's going to send it right to the ground. You got to have dip in your loop to be able to rope this effectively, okay? And so also, if I have the improper buildup in a calf loop, when that Honda and everything hits up here at the back of the head, where a lot of people's loops hit and come around and catch what, a back foot or a tail or something like that, and just your run goes to pop pretty quick, you also can't catch this calf with that loop either. So it makes you get the plane right, makes you get your hand up, get your tip all the way down, and stay really down through your delivery on this. So it's a really, really awesome calf head. I think it's the best calf roping dummy ever built. So that just stores on the bottom. And when you want to pack up to go, obviously everything flips up and stores. I'll show you that in a minute. So that pretty much covers the head design, having the rotational post in it, why the post is there in the first place, what it enhances in your delivery, what it stops you from throwing is the most important thing. Those half-baked shots, and mind you, if I pull off 5 good ones but 3 bad ones, my goal is to get where I can rope that post and those horns every single time. And there's a reason that all the pro guys that have roped this rope it without missing, and I mean all the way back to the knot. And if we're really searching for a loop that's more like theirs, instead of trying to pull it out of the air, we have to have something that's going to kind of guide us versus just saying, rope like this, rope like that, rope like this. We could all hire George Strait to come to our house for a month and help us learn to sing. The bottom line is there's only so much you can do for us, and natural talent takes over someplace in there. So, and it's, you look at the sport of baseball, there's a lot of phenomenal baseball players that can rocket that ball from the back fence all the way to home plate, but if they can't swing a bat and hit those curveballs coming at 102, they never make the pros. The only person that cannot bat and make the pros is a pitcher. Everybody else has to have that natural talent to read that ball coming at them at 98, 96, 102, 101. They have to have that. And that's something that this gives you the foundation for, gives you all the right tools you need, and then you take it to whatever level your natural talents can take you to. All right, I'm going to get to the back feet here. And this was the hardest part of our dummy to design. The window and the opening was so mysteriously small to me. But when you slow-mo video and you're watching, you're studying that opening and how the loop comes through and how it breaks, you can't see centrifugal force, mind you, but you can feel it. And so when we started studying the effects of centrifugal force and how a rope broke on the legs and how it entered, we wanted something that would allow you to throw a full-size heel loop, not a kid's rope, but a full-size heel loop correctly and get it all the way through without it hitting anything. But then we wanted the second you swung forward to back or dropped your hand early, that same loop was not going to work. And so that's where the shape of that opening came from. And so when we're heeling, And the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to have a ground reference for a guy on the ground heeling. And a sawhorse, I've always roped a sawhorse. I mean, I just swing over the top of it and come around, take my hand, swing over the top of my sawhorse, and come down and rope it, just like that. The deal was I was having to transition from up here to down here. Okay, here to down here is not a delivery. That's not a delivery. When I'm on my horse and I'm over the top of a cow, I reach forward and down, right at my target. And I place my loop in there, and I come up and I hold my slack. So I wanted something that I could swing, every swing, right at where I was aiming, and also have something to reference to make sure I had good angle when I was on the ground. Again, we're trying to develop skills that you can carry on to horseback on the ground. Okay, it's not the easiest thing to do. There's a lot of guys I know that are real talented that say, man, I just didn't ever rope dummies. I just had to rope live cattle. Dummies always mess me up. So I put those legs, that angle, I could have done at any angle here. And so what I did is if you study and you look at a heeler's loop, when he leaves out the heel box and the steer's going this way down the pin, and you pick this up and you get your tip down, and you can match it to that top angle. And so here we're matched to that top angle. I know I'm good, but notice I can swing right at my target, okay? And the reason I can swing right at my target here is because this doesn't come out in a big 90 and drop. It's not just hanging straight down. This cutout here effectively lets me swing my tip over my target at all times. And it lets me swing right at my target without having to manipulate my loop from down in the back or over the top in the front. And there's a lot of people that teach different ways. Me personally, it never did me any good to step into my dummy when I threw my heel loop. It actually caused me to keep my shoulders back, and I drop my hand more. And so I don't encourage people to step into a dummy as they deliver. They'll get up here like this, swinging at it, and they step in. I keep my shoulders, and I start hitting the side of it and won't go in. But on a sawhorse, that loop looks phenomenal. That loop hits, comes around, stands up, and it looks wonderful. On this, it's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to cheat this with that loop. So just to kind of recap, and one last thing here, it's a 2-inch window here underneath the feet. So you do got to get your bottom strand on the ground all the way. And these legs do collapse. They're spring loaded. So when you're playing with your buddies and you're roping this thing and turning it and jerking back on the feet, you just relax your rope, the springs open back up, and your rope drops off on the ground, and you go rope it again. And the way I approach the dummy, we get back here again so we can get that reference of that tip angle, and I move forward, and I turn in, and I get my position, and now when I want to deliver, I take my hand down, place my loop on the ground, and then I'm up here to dally. I'm not checking my shoulders, doing this, stepping into it. If I step over my right foot, going around the corner, getting ready to deliver on any of my horses, they're gonna shut down. They're gonna kick out sideways a little bit. They're gonna feel me, and I can't get after them for being short if it's me leaning off the side of them. And so when I'm going nuts while I'm half stepping, I approach my dummy, I keep my left foot forward just like I'm on my horse, riding in the left lead. And if I put any of you in the back of the little ATV here and had you stand up and I drove in a circle, you'd all be leaning like this to the left. If you lean to the right, you'd just plumb fall out on your head. And hence, the horse can feel the fly land on him. Do you think it doesn't feel 190 pounds shift its weight to the right stirrup? And you wonder why your heel horse gets short. So, I believe in keeping your shoulder back, keeping down, staying here, and then leaning forward and placing your loop on the ground, and then getting your slack and staying right here. And if you don't have anybody pulling it, you don't need to be doing this number going back behind your head. If you start doing this with your heel slack, and you're getting way back here, when you do come back to dally, how much rope did you just push back in your heel loop, and how easy is it for that steer to pull a foot? Or just simply drop off his feet? So, and parents, when your kids are roping this, using little teeny kids loops and kid ropes and just swinging these itty bitty little things and turning around, coming around here and having fun, and they're doing this number here and scooping it, going like that, that is no benefit to your kids whatsoever. So this dummy, not only is it fun to rope, but you rope it with full-size loops. You do everything correctly, so as you're playing around having a good time, you're building good fundamentals. And so like when we're sitting here on carpet or parking lot or cement or whatever, and we're roping it, and I turn it and I pull it from my buddy, he's now roping, he jerks the feet together, and he goes ahead and ropes it. Turn around, kick it around, we go do it again. So it is fun to rope. You're sitting in a shop or pavement or taking it to a rope, and it's good for two people. One of the last things, I wanted something that was easy to take with me everywhere I went. If that meant whether I was in a 2-horse or the big trailer or whatever. And so I wanted something that was real simple. And hence I could take this, take my horns off, put them in there, put my head in there. I flip my legs over, I open this up, store my one dummy rope here, store my other dummy rope there, and now I've got a balance. The handle's placed where it's balanced when it's loaded up and got everything in it. And where we do in our truck, we just drop the tailgate. It slides right on your tailgate, underneath your hitch, underneath your trailer, close tailgate, off you go. Don't have to throw it in with your horses. So that is how it all goes together and why we designed it the way we did, and a few of the pointers that help you rope better. And I'm going to put this back together real quick and have a few of you come up here and rope and answer some questions. And on the horns, we do have two different size horns. We've got the long horns is what we call this, and we have a set of Corriente horns, which are smaller, more Corriente-like cattle horns. And I've had a few people ask me why we don't do some tremendously long, wide horns. And the reason being is if I take that flat loop that we first talked about, and I don't care if it's 3 foot, 4 foot horns, I can take that same flat, long loop and just skim it on and do the same thing. It doesn't make me deliver any better, doesn't make me rope any better, doesn't do anything for me. But if you're throwing the correct head loop, the only thing that changes to rope big horns is bigger loop. That's it. I can stick pieces of PVC out the end, 20 inches each side, that post sitting up in the same size loop, and rope it every time. It's because I've got the right loop right to left, and it turns over right center of the head, and your head's in the middle of the loop. Hence, bigger loop, bigger horns is all you need to do. So, any questions at this point? Anybody? I need a volunteer. Who's going to come up and rope it for me? These sell for $5.50. So when you compare what you're paying to put together a bunch of different dummies, tote them around, it's a value. And when you invest in your program, you think about what you pay for saddle pads, boots, bell boots, trucks, trailers, everything that goes into it, and what we gamble with every time we enter. Okay, this is a lifelong investment. This is not a gamble. It's going to give you a return. And the reason these things, and get them here if you can, honestly, because we'll be sold out before we leave the NFR again. We've spent about 8 months of last year sold out. But it's these people that are taking these dummies home, and they're having some conversations, I bet, with that post a few times when they're roping it. But the deal is, when they're showing up their practice pins and their jackpots and they're winning, and I'm getting emails of this World Series win, this U.S. win, I won this much at the finals, won my first buckle, won my first saddle, won my first trailer, and this is a short period of time after roping this dummy. These people are already 4s and 5s, but have always struggled, and now they're catching 100% of their cattle, or a very, very high percentage. They're not waving it off. They're in better position, so their handles are better. There's big transformations happening, and that's a real value. That's a real product. So, who's a roper? Who wants to step up here? Who's going to be brave enough? All right, what's your name?
Mike.
Mike. Where are you from, Mike? Snowmass, Colorado. First, we're just going to take a couple pitches at this dummy without the pole in it. Okay. Okay, both those loops went on nice, had nice action, good swing speed, everything else, but both those loops hit down here right in the side of this body. Those loops are what I call our wave-off wonders. And the other thing that we have in those loops is that opening, and you're real effective with it. As long as the head's in the right position, he doesn't drop his head, you're probably going to catch that steer, but we're looking at this kind of a target right here versus this kind of a target when you have your hand turned all the way up before you turn it over to the middle of the head. When you watch a great roper rope, if you can get video footage and watch some of these headers, when they deliver from the front end, what you'll see is you'll see a flash of their palm like this as they extend. And what it is, it's like a trick roper that has a rope. When you have that rope tight and you're doing anything you want, that trick roper is not making big circles like this to make a loop to jump through. He's doing this. He's spinning it. And when you get that action and you've got good swing, whatever your hand does is what your loop's going to do. And you'll see them extend out, and you'll just see it looks like they're roping head straight to the back of, or hand straight to the back of the head. But the deal is they're back here, and as they come around and rotate that over, they're creating a right to left action, and the speed of their swing is what carries it over. So your plane, you're going to be challenged a little bit here. If you don't change that plane, it's not going to rope it now. So you're going to need to keep your plane up a little bit longer to the center of the head before you turn your hand over. Okay? Okay. I want you to keep one thing in mind. Just remember, that's a good loop and it's a good change. You're making a good change off first swing. Swing it a little bit over towards me, and always remember, we got to be same plane as those horns. Don't get yourself dipping your hand or turning it over too much too early. Carry it around that right horn. Make sure your tip comes past your hand and hits that right horn first before you roll over. It's going to take you a couple swings, but you're going to find it. I got no doubt. Now, I want you to make sure you're on this line, too. And the other thing it's going to do by putting you on this line, okay, and when you build your loop up here, let me just show this. If I'm right here and I'm roping, where are my shoulders facing? Straight ahead. How much shoulder do I have to deliver with here? How many people do we see swing their rope out front and deliver everything right here in their forearm and their wrist? When you move over here, generally you're going to turn and look at your target. When I turn and look, well, geez, need to say I can throw a rock further from here than I can from here. So the second I start swinging over here, honestly, I've already got more power, more distance, more range, and I'm going to cover a bigger area. So what I'm going to ask you to do when you step up here to rope this one is get everything ready and tell me when you're ready. I want you to look at me and swing over here. Swing at me. Okay, now change nothing, but turn just your head and rope. So close. It's almost there. Looked really good. I want you to pack your hand a little higher and get your tip down a little bit. That loop was really a really good loop, just a hair flat. Look at me. Swing over here. Start over here. Now turn just your head. Get your hand up higher and get your tip down a little bit. Good. You got the base. Now just get your right to left and you've got it. And it's good. Let me get this one. Go ahead.
When you come through here and you rotate your hand through, where do you do that?
I never rotate. What he asked me is, he says, when my hand comes through, where do I rotate my hand? First off, let's get something straight. We all swing like this. We got our thumb down as we're swinging. We're cranking our rope and we got our thumb down. So hence, we have to rotate it back this way to deliver. You got to push that bottom strand here and rotate our hand. A lot of guys, you don't ever see them go like this, swing good, and then go. You never see that. You never see them take their hand straight to the back, straight to the head. They're back here cranking. They're going to come around. It's just like a pitcher throwing a baseball. He winds up, he comes around. He brings power here. Well, we've got a circle that we've already made with our loop. We're just bringing the power forward and placing it here on the head. So I turn my hand over after I get to the center of the head. And what I do, and nobody talks about timing with heading, but what I do when I have somebody that will drop their loop early, and can't get it all the way across or just keep dropping it here, I'll have them just swing real slow like you swing and look through it, and not for an aiming point. It's for timing. When that tip passes your hand and you see the tip of the left horn, you will feel it pull on your pinky. And so you just say there, just like a musician, there. There's a reason musicians tap their feet and everything else, and you can say it out loud, there, and look back to your aiming spot, there, but you carry it to there. And when you deliver, or turn your hand over after the middle of the head, that loop's going to stay like this, and it's going to engulf the head, and that curl's going to be down to the left, out of the way of the front feet. It isn't going to be hitting them in the rib cage, and it's going to, when they pop it, the curl's going to come up right there and smack to the back left of the horn. So, swing good and slow. Get your rope fed. Get your hand up a little bit higher. There you go. So there, 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 there. And there's that loop where we drop it early. It's like the th, and we send it out here. I want you to swing really, really slow. Just real slow, and just get up there and just kind of just lay it on there once. And then we're going to put that power you had in your original swing back into it. A lot of times you got to slow things down. I want you guys look at his feet here too. Ha ha ha. Okay, we just got to get a circle. Got to get a circle. You're still swinging and it's, understand, you're coming from over here where you've been probably, how long have you been roping, by the way? 10 years. So 10 years you've been swinging in here and you got kind of an oval in your loop. He's not going to erase this in 3 minutes. But I can promise you, looks like a kid in the booth earlier today, he sat there and he worked and he worked and he worked and he worked and he had a beautiful heel loop, and finally he caught the head loop. It was like 1 out of, he says, that's great, 1 out of 50. But then it was 1 out of 5, then 1 out of 3, then it was about 50-50, and the kid's roping it good now. But it just took him a little while to find it. But again, for him to have found that out of the clear blue sky, just saying rope like this, do that, to find that some mystery loop somewhere and not have anything to help him, he'd have been throwing the same loop that he threw the first 50 times. Never would have changed. Okay? So get good power in your tip so you can feel it there in your fingertip. And then right to left. Bring it right to left. Yep, it's going to take you a little while. It's going to take you a little while because you keep wanting to send it and stop your hand right over here. You keep wanting to go like this and deliver, and you're going right there. And one of the things you think about, like we have all sit at a restaurant, we watch the busboy clear a table. He picks up this, puts it in the bucket, picks up this, puts it in his bucket on the chair. I've always sat and thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if you could just pick up the salt shakers and just throw it in there? That'd be a way to bust the table and get going. Well, when you look at ahead and you think about it, when you clear it off, you want to clear everything off that table. Clear everything off that table. And another thing, a way to think about it, is when you go home, and all of you who've got a round trash can with the lid, just take it off and put it on a few times. And what you're going to find yourself doing is when you take that lid off to look inside, you go like this. You don't go like this, and you don't go like this. You open up and you look in. And to replace that lid, we find the edge of the trash can, and you put the lid on. You find the edge of the trash can lid, and you put the lid on. It's very similar to a head loop. We find that edge, and we put it on. And that's why you'll see that flash of that palm of the great guys. You'll see that roll of that palm, and their fingers extend. So just clear it all the way across. Wipe that whole table off here. Get a good base under. You get both your feet where you got weight on that left foot. Left foot should be forward. Your horse is in the left lead. There you go. And build up. Shorten everything back up. On his stance here, and this is something a lot of people, you have to make yourself a note and address this when you rope a dummy. If you stand on your right foot when you're roping and you're trying to get your shoulders back to deliver, it's going to be counterproductive. The same thing I believe is walking forward and back. You bring your hips forward. Every time you walk with this, you're uncoiling your spring, uncoiling your spring. Your spine and your upper torso, as you're playing, it's just like in golf. We got weight on the inside of the ball of our foot when we come back. If we don't, we roll right here, we have no power. And in roping, we're on a horse, we're in our left lead here. If I don't have this cocked and I don't have power in that, I can fall off like Humpty Dumpty. I mean, how many headers head good when they blow a stirrup? Blow your right stirrup, leave in the box. How good's your head loop? I don't catch very many of them. And then after that, I'm struggling to stay on as I turn left and get out of the hole. So same thing here. We want a good base on the dummy, so left foot forward and get your other foot underneath you. And I always think of it like if I was going to hit somebody with my shoulder, I'm over the top of it. And that way I've got my spring coiled up here, and I've got power all the way from my torso up. I can't imagine ever having a team rope without stirrups. That would be something to see. Good, 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 good. Beautiful. Beautiful. How'd that loop feel? Do you notice how open his loop is there when he's swinging and rotating his elbow over? I mean, it's standing up big, and he's taking that same rotation and he's turning it here. It'll be just the matter of, let's see if he can do it twice in a row. And I tell you, changing his stance and getting his feet underneath him is going to give him, I mean, it can make you miss or catch. So about 1 for 15, now we're 0 for 1. So I appreciate you coming up here. I'm going to pull a healer up here. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, who's a healer? I need a healer. He needs somebody who ropes back feet. Somebody's got to volunteer. Do you heal? Come on. It was, you know, when a guy does that, that's like when his wife asks him to do something, there's either a definite no or it's a yes. I'm just going to do it, not going to say anything. You want to come on up? Anybody over here, it's a healer, wants to step up here? Anyone? You heal? Okay, she's like a big no. He's probably lying. That's a team roper right there. See it? He's lying to us already. Doesn't even want to admit that he's a roper right now. So, well, in the drill, what you can do when you get home, and this is a way to kind of, when you get one of these dummies, which we hope you will, what you can kind of do, and I wish I had a, let me see, we got a book here. We'll just steal somebody's book real quick. Okay. All right. What I do is I have something that sets here behind the dummy like this. And the reason I heel my dummy like this, I want to add a little bit further, is because making a corner and an entry on your heel shot is everything. Position is everything. I mean, it's to me, it's more than 90% of everything. And so how I practice on this dummy when I get home is I set a 5-gallon bucket up like this. And mark my words, the next time you go to the grocery store and you park in these new Fandango parking lots that have so much space for our big F-250s and 350s, you've got to stay so far over to the right to even have a chance of getting in that parking spot, right? Or you're going to be busting out taillights on the right, scraping the car up on the left. You've got to come in, you've got to get in square. Your entry to a heel corner is almost identical to that. You hold your horse out and you stay out till that steer is moved out opens up a little bit, and you can ride into that corner. And so when you think about parking your car, think about that. You'd never park your car, your truck from the center of the aisle going into the left. So I only half step. I get up here, I match that angle. I go forward, so I get around that, so I know I'm going to come in. And I turn in, I change that loop when I come in. I keep my loop down, both strands crossing the hip this way. If you turn around and you pack that same angle into your delivery, and a lot of times the pros look like it because they come off one swing and they deliver. They'll be up here like this, but when they come around to deliver, they adjust and they bring it right to left and come across those feet. They don't stab it in there like this, or they will stab a single. They won't get both feet, very seldom. And so it's a transition from the angle that we're packing going down the arena to flatten it out. And so I just come up and go around it, and I come in, I get right into my target, and I change my swing, and I rotate, and I reach down, and I imagine the steer leaving me and coming straight down to my horn. If I'm back here again, how far am I to my horn? If I'm trying to run backwards, you know what I mean? It doesn't anything good. It's like the Karate Kid, you know, he does that thing, goes out like this. You get your hand out front like this, and your saddle horn is straight down in front of you. Easy to find, quick to the dally. You'll see these guys whip their hand, and it's a fast hand movement. It's really, really fast. So, any questions? I want to let some more people come up here and throw some loops. Why don't you come on up here and throw a couple loops? Come on. Okay. First thing we want to do is get that tip down and match the angle. And I'm going to show you a little trick here. I'm going to build up a loop for you once. I've got a system of measuring out ropes for people and giving them a great starting point. I believe having everything measured the same every single time, same loop size, same slack, same everything, is just as important as when I go to sight in one of my guns, to having the same load, same amount of grains of powder, everything in it. And so I've got a system of measuring out ropes and marking them to where I build up the same every time. Feed it, relax, come down. Okay, you're getting good entry there. I want you to get a little bit closer where your tip's almost right here. So literally when you're over the cow and you're in position, it's just a reaching down and delivering. You're not trying to get way out there in front of you and try to reach. Just stay in there tight, walk in there and get your loop just in there. Let's make it bigger, 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 more spoke. And this is something here on your rope buildup, guys, and roping. And there's a lot, again, this is one of these controversial things. There's a lot of ways to explain it, a lot of ways to look at it. But if you look at your heel loop, and you figure you have a pole in front of you, and you take a piece of wood on top of it, and you mark it dead center and balance it on that pole. You look at your heel loop, and you think about it the same way. If I tilt that pole, it's perfectly balanced, mind you, and I drop it down, hits that post, it's going to kick. It's going to kick to the direction of the leading edge when it hits that post. So in heeling, when we're coming around there, if you don't have your leading edge, if it's not the first thing that goes in and hits, it's the last, it's the other. It's one or the other. It's going to go one way or another. And we've already got more weight back here because we've got what? We've got our spoke right here. So this is already going against you. So if you, for any reason, try to deliver early, it's going to pull your tip in. And how many guys have seen it? Tip goes in, and you pull it straight out because everything's laying here behind the legs. So just concentrate on watching your tip hit the legs. Get up a little closer. Get into it. Get in closer. Get your tip down there. Now just concentrate on rotating and up. And when you do that, when you scoop underneath, really, we need a bigger loop for you. You need more bottom strand here on the ground. We don't want to have that teardrop shot because that teardrop shot is a leg-in machine. It will rope the outside leg beautifully, or the inside leg beautifully, and miss the outside leg all day long. So I'm really going to take you out of your comfort zone here. Shuffle me some rope, would you? And a lot of guys talk about it being half of their loop, 3/4 of their loop. You know, depending on whether you're feeding or after you fed or before you fed, it looks a lot different. But the bottom line is whatever's in your spoke is what's going to be on the ground outside the leg. And wherever your pinky is pointed after you deliver, there lies your spoke as well. Okay? I want you to look right here. Your hand is, everybody knows where his hand is. It's up here. It's outside to the right. If you take your hand, go all the way back like this for me. Set the rope down. Just hold the rope in your left hand all the way back, just like this. Reach down here and give me a 5. That's a delivery. Coming down to it. If you're dropping out here and you're holding your rope, you're not letting anything get down there to the ground. You're holding so much rope outside. So you're going to come around, rotate all the way down, and put that rope on the ground. Okay? Again, you need a much bigger spoke, much bigger, probably even a little bit bigger loop. I want you to get out of your comfort zone here just a little bit. Okay? Okay, now stop right there. Whoop. I want to put this back in there. Even though it wasn't a perfect loop, one thing you had there on that loop when it was wound up, you had this part of your rope buckled and sitting outside. And that's real important. So we need to get you all the way down so you're still robbing yourself and taking some of that rope back out. I'm going to keep going bigger until he's just got so much, it's going to work. Good. Notice the difference there of his extension. His hand goes all the way down. And again, that loop is wide open going across both back feet. Went right through that opening. It's kind of I mean, most people wouldn't think a big loop would go through that little opening, but it's amazing when it's done right. Okay, good. It's not bad, aren't bad. You want to probably work on getting a little more rotation in your wrist and your elbow, turning that loop over a little bit more. And so when you're almost swinging, it's like you're almost saying boo every time you crank. Get your thumb down, thumb down. Yep. And that spoke being short is going to get you. It's going to get you. I want you to, the size of guy you are, let's go ahead and put your thumb behind the Hondu there. I want you to push it across your chest to, oops, about right there. Did we lose something? Okay. Okay. Now go ahead and let's get your loop. So when you hold your arm out here and you look down, I want this sucker just about touching the dirt. Okay? All right. And let's get a good amount of, you don't feed, so we don't want to have too much slack between our hands. As you get to feeding, you're going to put some slack back in your hands, and you want to feed it into your loop. That helps create speed and power in your loop. Okay? Thumb all the way down. Thumb down. There we go. Thumb down. Say boo. Get a little closer. Get through your tips right over the top of your target. Get up closer. Don't reach. Now just rotate and come down. Good. Good. And so you're going to want to move yourself so big, keep moving bigger, bigger, bigger on your loop and your build-up, because by not feeding your rope, when we start out with the rope built, what I do here in my swing, and I call this it's right here. I've got this back here, which I call my waitress position. How waitress walks around with the tray of food, and I've got this right here with the slack between my hands. I'm going to feed that down in there when I swing. And it's just going to be tight between my hands, because that left hand, when I let go of this rope, whatever I do with my left hand, I can cause myself to miss, cause a loop to collapse. I can do whatever I want by the left hand. So you want to have if you're not going to feed, you want to have a bigger loop, big full-size spoke, and you're going to have less between your hands. In other words, when you let go, your heel loop's going to fly. And we don't want it flying because it's going to do what? Go right down the ground. So we're tight here, and so when we come across, it's going to fall straight down the line here. It's not going to have that collapse where it's going to go and hit the floor on you. Okay? Does he want to come down? You want to come down and give it a try? Okay. Good. Good. You want to stay down. Stay down in your delivery. If you go like this and you grab and you start bringing it back out, it's going to cause problems. You want to stay all the way down in your delivery, get your bottom strand on the ground. One of my biggest problems in healing when I come around there, if I'm in a hurry and things are going fast, is to go down and come back out so quick, and it's a nightmare for me. Good. Let it finish completely. And how you're getting your slack like this, when you deliver down here, I want you just to rotate your hand over and just out in front of you like that, straight up. Don't reach back, don't pull back, and you're going to notice your loop's going to stay in there. So let's have you throw another one, and I'm going to bring that young man off the top bench down here. Good. You notice when you don't, well, but the thing about it is you understand when you didn't grab your slack, you notice how your bottom strand stayed in there. So, all right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Come on down. You head or heel?
I mostly head.
Okay. And what's your name?
Chester.
Chester, nice to meet you. Where are you from?
California.
California. Long ways from home. Lucky dog. Okay. Going to throw another one? Okay. Now what I'm going to do here is I want you to find that free throw line. Okay. Step behind the dummy here for me to where your knees are touching those legs. Okay, right behind it, straight behind it. Okay, all the way up to your knees are touching those legs. Now take one step back, 2 steps, big steps this way. Those are jumbo kind of steps, are big. Okay, now I want you to get right there and get your shoulders back. And when you start swinging this time, I want you to slow it down for me. I want you to look through your loop, and every time you see the head, I want you to, no, slow. That is, if that's slow for you, I don't want to see fast. Really slow it down. Slower, slower, slower. Open it up and rotate your hand more. Try not to do so much with your wrist. Slow it down. Slower. Slow. There we go. Our team ropers, our brains, our skulls are thick. Ears don't work. Okay, now, just reach up there slowly and come across before you turn your hand over. Okay? Should I do it again? Roping slow correctly is hard to do. It's really hard to do. But when you're going to make a change, you need to do it at this speed. You don't need to be throwing as hard as you can, as fast as you can. You need to do it at that speed. Okay? Chester, earth to chest, slow. There we go. Well, no, not on this. It'll take you some time to master this. But the thing is you've been roping that same loop, roping a dummy, and I bet you there's problems that transpire from that loop that you have a lower percentage. So this is something for a guy like you. I bet you it's going to take you 20, 30 minutes, and you'll have it. And when you have it, you're going to have change. And when you go back the next day to rope it again, it's probably going to be missing for a few swings, and then it's going to come back to you. But over time of roping something correct every day, those time windows are going to get shorter and shorter and shorter to where basically you're going to walk up there and rope it, and it'll be right there your very first swing. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it. All right, everybody, I appreciate your time. If you have any other questions, we'll be over here in our booth at next to Shoot Help. Feel free to come on over there, and we'll take care of those for you.